Okay, this one's a little funny. For the first 25 minutes of this video, I suppose it was longer than that actually, I am trying to reproduce an issue that happens when deleting a directory with contents using an empty directory. Oh, that would do it. I know, crazy oversight, but I left that whole portion of my troubleshooting process in this video because I was unable to reproduce the issue in this condition where it wasn't reproducible. And that means I tried a lot of things, and throughout that, I was explaining my thought process for each next step. So that might be valuable to some people as an example of some troubleshooting steps that you can try when solving your own bugs. This is the first of two bugs that I examined while analyzing production stack trace number two. There's a previous video on that. The second bug I'm solving is Dev Center creating a directory called undefined. That one is much shorter than this one, so if you want to watch something quicker that might also be interesting, I might recommend that. Anyhow, to the video. While recording a video for a production trace that I'm debugging, I'm noticing a strange behavior where Dev Center is calling delete with this request payload, which specifies recursive is true, and it's getting the response directory is not empty. That should be impossible. So I'm assuming this is a backend issue and recording a sort of digression video while I look into this problem. The first thing to do is see if I can reproduce this issue just in the dev console to reduce confounding variables regarding like what token is being used, where this is being called, and that sort of thing. I have to test it on the same directory, which kind of means I get one chance. So actually, I'm going to use the auth token from the request, which first. Then I'm going to try with the user's auth token. This auth token, I believe it is a user app token for the Dev Center app, because the Dev Center app is attempting to delete this directory. So we'll go to the console. Hopefully I remember how to do this. We're going to do a fetch on pewter localhost 4100. Method is post, and we're going to have some headers, which are going to be authorization. Token is going to be that one that I copied. Content type can be application JSON. And what we're going to be doing is a call to delete. And I'm going to the best of my ability, copy the payload from this delete call. So we have these paths. Well, this path, but paths is an array. Paste that. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because, oh, that is actually just on a separate line. I was wondering about that. Recursive is true. Descendants only is false. That should be the default. So it's odd that we are actually passing that. So maybe one thing I'll try later is calling this without specifying descendants only and see if it's maybe an issue with when it's specified to be false versus not being defined at all. Those bugs can happen. They shouldn't, but they can. All right, let's try this. Hopefully we reproduce this issue because as far as I know, everything in this request is exactly the same. Oh, but it also needs to be correct JavaScript syntax. Gotta close my function call here. Okay, I got 404 not found, but I think that's just because I forgot API dot Okay, I did not reproduce this issue. That is very interesting. So this could be non-deterministic, or there could be something else in this call that I'm not seeing here that makes it different. So either the call is different, which I think is unlikely actually. I think that's unlikely to be the case. Either the call is different or the issue is inconsistent, which is going to make this very fun to debug, to say the least. The easiest way I can think of to try to reproduce this is to just keep creating a directory called undefined in here over and over again, and see if we sometimes get that error that I was seeing before. So in this case, we managed to create it and delete it. We managed to delete it again. I'm going to try one more time. And if I'm not able to reproduce it this time, I'm going to add the creation of the directory as a step and sort of automate it. Okay, yeah, so what I need to do now is include the creation of the directory as a step here. So to do that, I'm going to call makedir. I believe makedir is going to have path here set to undefined. That is not an array. And parent, I believe, is the other parameter for this, which is going to be this folder. That's where this is happening, so I want to keep the same folder. And I'm just going to quickly check the makedir endpoint and make sure I'm doing that correctly. I just wanted to make sure the parameter was in fact called parent and not parent path or something like that, or ancestor. So it is called parent. So we'll make this recursive true. Doesn't mean anything to makedir. That looks good. I'm also going to add await new promise, resolve, set timeout, resolve. We're going to set the timeout for, I'll say 1 second. Just to reduce any confounding variables, or more so to give us control over this variable, how long it is between making the directory and deleting. But I don't think it's doing that in succession anyway. And oh, we have a quote there. Okay, so created the directory and deleted it. Okay, that seems to be working fine. So what I'm going to do then is add another one of these awaits. I'm going to do math.random times that. Now, it would be a shame if we didn't know what those random numbers were, so I'm going to make an inline logging function. And we'll use this inline log function to wrap math.random, just so we can see it. I'm going to test this once. Okay, now I'm going to put it in a for loop. So we're going to make this a block. Okay, so that code is in a block now. Now we're going to loop it. I'm just going to let that go 20 times, see what happens. Okay, we did get 409 conflict. So that was a good decision. I think we seem to get conflict on values less than 0.4, 0.3, but we get it here and that was 0.5. I'm not sure if that means anything. And while I'm thinking about where the bug happens, we don't actually do a make dir and then a delete. If anything, we do a delete and then a make dir and both fail. But um, I am able to reproduce this issue, which is nice. Let's see if the error message is in fact the same. No, this is item with same name exists. Oh wait, that's in the make dir. File or directory not found. This means I'm not actually reproducing the issue. This is actually not really a bug. This is just because operations are happening at the same time and finishing at different times. We're seeing issues where the item does still exist when we're calling make dir, or the item was already deleted when we're calling delete. So that's that actually makes a lot of sense. So this isn't a successful reproduction of the issue, and come to think of it, I'm pretty sure the status response was actually 422. Hello, this is Eric interrupting from the future. At this point in the video, I get really confused sifting through code and forget that I'm actually verifying that the status code was 422, but it is. I've, just to make this video a bit less verbose, cut this out, or I'm cutting it out right now, actually. I think that one too. Yeah, no one needs to watch all that, so we'll just skip right to over here. Here it is. This happens when recursive is false. Recursive comes from our values, which are set by the high-level operation, which are passed. Recursive is listed as a parameter. That doesn't really affect this. This stop values is passed as is, which comes from our delete endpoint, which gets recursive from the post body and passes it unconditionally. So there's not really a lot of room for this error that I was observing in Dev Center to happen. So that's very interesting. I'm going to think about this for a little bit and then get back with another clip. So at first, with this delete issue, I thought of two possibilities. One, there's something in the request that I'm trying to replicate that I'm not seeing that's causing the issue. And the other was that it's just inconsistent and I need to try it multiple times. And spoiler alert, it would turn out to be neither to reproduce the issue. However, as I've seen, it doesn't seem to be reproducible with the request I'm using, so that leaves probably there's something that I wasn't seeing, nope, about the original request. Could it be cookies? Probably not. I think the cookies sent are the same, and I'm also using the same token. But maybe there are other requests happening before it that are necessary to reproduce the issue. As we've seen, multiple requests in quick succession can cause issues, so that seems like the next place I should look. So what I'm going to do is actually try another deployment in Dev Center and reproduce this issue that way, but this time I'm going to look more broadly at all of the different requests being made to the server. So let's try deploying this again. Hopefully we reproduce that issue again. I'm going to keep the network tab close. I'm actually going to clear it and deploy again. This deployment worked, so I'm just going to clear and try to deploy again. I'm going to keep doing that until, there we go, until this issue occurs. And we do see we're getting directory not empty with recursive equals true. I'm going to really double check that that's spelled the same. And it does seem to be. And let's see what the other requests are. We're deleting a subdomain. Deleting a subdomain, I don't think deletes the directory or anything like that. We do a stat. We do a stat on the directory we're about to delete, so that could be something. We do a read on Peter apps. We're just getting the app information. We do a readdir on the directory that we are deploying. We do a select on apps. So the two most likely candidates to me seem to be this stat and perhaps this call to delete the subdomain. I'm going to look at the stat first. To me, that seems the most likely to cause a potential issue. I'm going back to my code here. I'm going to do a stat, and I'm going to remove my little sleeper here, both of them. So we'll do a stat on that directory, and then immediately do a delete on that directory. That stat request is incorrect, though. Let's see what that actually looks like. We have path and return subdomains true. So I'm going to set path to the full path. And then I'm going to set remove subdomains true to eliminate confounding variables. I'll put that parameter last, although I don't suspect that would matter. Let's see if we can reproduce the issue this way. We get a bad request on stat, and then we do delete the directory. So I must have done stat incorrectly. Let's take a look at the stat again. I have path and return subdomains, which actually looks correct to me. I don't see why I would be getting bad request from that right away. Oh, it's because I was missing a forward slash there. So that test was invalid. I'm going to go back to the snippet, but I'm going to add the makedir at the top again, as well as this sleep. Okay, so let's try this. So we'll do a makedir, we'll wait a bit, we'll stat it, and we'll delete it. Okay, deleting was successful. I'm going to keep trying this again and again. All right, didn't reproduce anything. So we're going to put this in a loop. We'll do 30 times. And at the end of each time, we will wait 2 seconds. Maybe 3, just to be on the safe side. So this will take a couple of minutes. I'll change this to 20. All right, let's see if we can get anywhere here. Okay, we're getting 409 and 404s, but as we've established earlier, that's likely unrelated, or that's not the response we're looking for. And this so far looks like it does not reproduce the issue. I'm going to quickly look at subdomains. Add subdomain ES because there was also a query on subdomains. Not a query, a deletion of a subdomain. It doesn't look like we have any specific behavior for deleting subdomains though. So we're not doing anything to the FS entry. This seems like it could affect this. So it's back to the drawing board, and I'm going to have to think of another possible cause for this issue. One thing that was different about that request is it was coming from the iframe. So if I go into this context, maybe I can reproduce the issue that way. And in doing that, I'm going to go back to my simple snippet that does a makedir and a delete in succession and see if that can reproduce the issue. Okay, this too seems to be a dead end. Just in case this token's changing, I'm going to try setting it to computer.auth token, which will be the dev center's auth token now that we're in this context. But yeah, it looks like this is not reproducing the issue either. So there's still something else going on. If I look at the payloads, this is the one where we get 422. and this is the one where we get 200. The only difference I can see between the payloads, everything seems to be spelled the same unless I'm not seeing something. So the only difference seems to be the order of the parameters. So I'm going to try mimicking the order of the parameters. It would be very surprising to me if that did actually make a difference, but it's worth a try because so far we're not able to reproduce the issue. So I'm going to put paths first, then descendants only, then recursive true. And I don't seem to be able to reproduce the issue even when keeping the parameter orders the same. And it does happen fairly consistently in Dev Center, so I don't really need to try that many times to verify this, but that too appears to be a dead end. So it's not the order of the parameters in the delete as far as I can tell. Another thing I just tried was copy as curl to see if I can see any differences between the requests that way. So again, the top was the one that was failing, and the one underneath is the one where I got status 200. One thing I'm noticing is the content type has charset UTF-8. That seems to be one difference, and I don't see any other difference in the request. Everything else seems to be exactly the same. So this is the only possible confounding variable in the requests that I can see right now. So let's try that. Again, this seems to be a dead end. I don't seem to be getting anywhere with that. The tokens do look different though, actually. I remember I copied the token from Dev Center earlier, but maybe I did that incorrectly somehow because this doesn't appear to be the same token anymore. So let's grab this token. And let's try using that one. Oh, the token became different very recently, actually. This is because I forgot to set it back from pewter to auth token when I went back to the top context here. Yeah, it looks like we are still unable to reproduce the issue, even though we've made the request as identical as possible. So again, I need to do some thinking and try to think of something else to try. It is day 2 of trying to reproduce this issue outside of Dev Center, where Dev Center is calling delete, and we're getting a response 422 directory is not empty, even though recursive true is specified, which means we should be able to delete that directory in that situation. So far, I've been working on reproducing this with fetch. I've tried different tokens, introducing timing, as well as other ways to get the request as close as possible. We ordered the parameters exactly the same. I did copy with curl in Dev Center, which revealed the only visible difference to be this charset UTF-8. So that was then added, and the issue still didn't reproduce. I still have a couple of avenues I can see to debugging this further. One of them is to do whatever Dev Center's doing at a higher level. So instead of trying to do a fetch to call delete, Dev Center is probably using pewter.js and using the delete method on pewter.fs in pewter.js. So by doing that, I might be able to replicate something about this request that I haven't been able to see that's different, even through copy with curl. I'm not sure what that would be, but that would make that would ensure that it's probably the same. The other thing to look into is maybe this directory that I'm creating, makedir with the name undefined, maybe that's not the same as the directory that Dev Center is deleting. Maybe there's something different about that directory that produces the error. That to me seems the most likely case. I think this fetch is replicating the delete pretty accurately. But it doesn't explain why when we call delete after dev center tries to do it on the directory that dev center did create with the fetch, we're not able to reproduce the issue. I might have just not tried that enough times. That's a possibility. So I'm going to first, I think first I'm going to try that. I'm going to try deleting the directory only when it's created by dev center. I'm in my app data directory, and I'm going to go to dev center's app data folder. I'll see right now that we don't have this undefined directory, so I need to reproduce the issue in dev center again. So in this case, I think we'll be doing a deployment. I'll just reload the page to reduce confounding variables. And I think it'll work right now because that directory doesn't exist, and that's where the problem is. So it'll just do a deployment, and then we can try the fetch in the console again. And by we, I mean I can try that right now. Okay, let's deploy this. I'm going to try this, I think, 5 times, so I might just speed it up in post if it doesn't work that many times in a row. Going to take just this fetch, and I don't really need any of the timers because it's just one request. Making sure everything looks correct. This token is a dev center token. I'm going to grab the current token in here just in case it changed. Actually, I'll call it from the iframe. And let's verify that the directory is here because I didn't do that yet. We do have the directory named undefined. Okay, let's try this. Look at that. Reproduce the issue. So it seems to be the case that there is something about this directory that creates this error. Well, it occurs to me now, I was not testing with a directory that's not empty, was I? I think I'm starting to see what's going on now. Dev Center is creating a directory. That directory has contents, the contents of the app that we mean to deploy. In my reproduction, I was not adding contents to the directory. Somehow I overlooked that, but that would have been really important to replicate the situation, especially given that the error was complaining the directory is not empty. Of course we wouldn't get that error in my attempted reproduction. So that was just a blunder on my part. But what's interesting is this directory is presently empty right now after the delete operation. So what that tells me is the recursive delete operation isn't consistently working the way that it should. It is deleting child nodes and then attempting to delete the parent node before those child nodes are deleted. So it's actually, you could think of it as an inner delete that's failing. So now I'm going to try again to reproduce this issue with just fetch in the console without using dev center, and I'm going to do that by first creating this directory. I guess I'll call it test. And I need to put some files in that directory. We'll do the app that I was deploying, right? It's actually just one file, which is really great. That means it might not be very complicated to reproduce this. We might just need one directory with one file in it. Kind of surprising, actually, that that can produce an issue like this. All the more reason to fix it. So we'll try this. Descendants only, false, recursive, true. This test directory that I just made. I got 404 not found. I think that's because I'm trying to delete it from dev center. Dev center doesn't actually have permission to remove that directory. So this is actually a good test then to see if we can reproduce it with a user token instead of an app token. And it looks like we can. I think if I try this a few times, yeah, it does eventually work. And it does eventually delete the directory. Alright, so on to why this happens. I now know I can reproduce it like this, to just a normal directory that I've created. So something is going wrong in the remove operation. rmdir, I would have to assume. And I would have to assume the error comes from this specific call to rmdir. If not descendants only, we call rmdir on the file system provider with the target node being the parent-most folder we were trying to delete. And somehow we are maybe not awaiting this, even though we have await tasks.await all. So I'm going to add some console logs. We're going to include, what information can we include? We can include child node .selector.describe. That should always be there. That will give us a file path or a UUID, or if we're unlucky, it might give us an internal database ID because it's been optimized out. But it looks like we're creating the node with a node UID selector, and we're not doing anything else with that node that fetches it. Actually, we are. So if I do log that here, we'll get an internal database ID because it'll have optimized out the UUID. What I really want is the path. I think I won't include any information here. What's going to happen is fetching information might affect the timing. Well, selector.describe is still okay. So we'll do that. We'll add a start and an end. I'll actually put that back over here. Okay, we've got a couple logs there. Okay, I'm content with that. I'm going to try reloading the server and doing the delete again. Once I find where I put the server console. That's over here. So we'll want the server console on one side and the dev tools on the other. First, I'm going to create that directory again. And we wanted this index.html to be copied in there. The actual contents of the file probably don't matter. I suspect it probably just has to be a file. I'm going to move DevTools over here. And then I'm going to do the same delete on document/test. Okay, this time we got internal server error. That means there was a mistake in the logs that I added, so I'm going to have to try that again. It's because I'm referring to child node here, but it was over here. It's just target. Target? Yeah, it's target. For some reason, the meta key D hotkey in VS Code that will let me select multiple things is broken. I'm not sure what's up with that yet. It's kind of stopped working. It might be a quirk with VS Code Vim or something. This directory I think should still be here. Oh, no, it's not. Right, that makes sense because the 500 error that we got was upon deleting the parent directory, which means we would have already deleted the child nodes. All right, let's give this a try. Okay, so I reproduced the error, and now I need to look at these logs. A little difficult to sift through. I probably should have put a marker over here. This looks like probably when I was doing the copy. Yeah. So that's too far up. Let's see. So I see this one. I don't actually see the log for end. Is that right? Yeah. I see the start. I don't see the end. So this never resolved. And I'm looking for deletion of the child nodes. I don't see any of the logs for that. They might be there. I might just not be seeing them. So what I'm going to do is make these logs a little bit more visible. And I'm going to... There was something else I was going to do. Oh, just create like a sort of marker by doing that a bunch of times in the logs. It's, I think 33 is yellow. That should be pretty noticeable. I don't need to close these off because all of the logs pretty much have a colored prefix and it'll reset anyway. Also, it's just testing. Very much doesn't matter. Uh, because I suspect these logs might be missing, I'm actually also going to add a console log to display the child nodes. Okay, so this directory is empty now because of our previous delete operation, so I'm going to have to add a file to it again, and hopefully we reproduce the issue. It looks like we did. Okay, so we see the parent node delete. I don't see any child node deletions. I'm going to add that marker. I forgot to do that again. Well, I'll add it here now. Okay. Fortunately, we seem to be able to reproduce this pretty consistently, or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it. We do get these child nodes. I don't see these logs, which is very peculiar. It's as though we're not running any of these tasks at all. I'm logging the child node UUIDs here just to make sure that they are iterable. I assume if we can print it here, then it's probably enumerable. Just as an extra check. And then I'll add this. There's conditional behavior in here too that I'm not looking at. Okay, of course I'm not seeing these logs. This is the rmdir case. So, because the child node is a file, that will never log. So that's actually not surprising at all. Right, I keep forgetting that that's broken. I don't know what to do about that. That's very annoying. Alright, well, I'll write file. File. Okay. Now I should see something in the logs. This directory is going to be empty again, so I'm going to add this file back over here. And then press enter a bunch of times just to mark this location in the logs. Reproduce the error. Okay, so we do get the child file delete log message. We get the end log message, and we get that before the parent node delete start message. That is what's expected, but of course, we're still getting this error that says the directory is not empty, which we can assume is being thrown from this operation that I believe it's being thrown from because we don't see the second log. So an exception is definitely being thrown on this line here, or it doesn't resolve, which I think is less likely. So there's something wrong with the state of the system, I assume, when we're calling this rmdir, that makes it believe child nodes still exist, or they're not completely deleted, despite the fact that this operation has completed running. I think the first thing to do is I'm going to look at where the error message directory is not empty is produced again, and see, I think that's where we are, right? No, this is directories. I would need, yeah, that is what I need. This is where the error is produced. So we're calling fast get direct descendants to get the child nodes of the directory. So when we call fast get direct descendants immediately after performing these operations, that's when we get this error. Fast get direct descendants comes from fsentry service, which is actually called database fsentry service. So it's this one, and in this case we are simply selecting fs entries. I don't see any caching behavior. That's great. That's going to make this so much easier to debug. So now we need to look at whatever these operations are doing and why they're resolving, presumably before we've made our changes to the database. Or specifically LLRM node, which is here. So we await the file system nodes, file system provider, provider's unlink method. So it's going to be in Peter FS provider, unlink. And this was changed a month ago, so this actually seems like a pretty good candidate for the issue. It makes sense that it would be here, because this is part of the effort to make file system support different file system providers, so we can have mount points on Pewter for other file systems, like maybe other internet file systems or that sort of thing. So that's what this is related to. But I assume rm node is doing something wrong. So we create tasks and we await the tasks, and one of the tasks is remove fs entry. That's what should be removing the fs entry from the database. So I'm going to go to fs entry service, database fs entry service. That's already open because I was looking at it, because fast get direct descendants is defined here. This time I want delete. There's a method here called delete, which I'm going to assume is async because it has to be. Yeah. We create a database fs entry delete, which is probably an operation. Where's that defined? It says, oh, Pewter FS. Definition. Oh, it's in this file. So the reason we have these operations here, this is kind of related to caching. This is where we can go through a list of file system nodes, or of pending changes, I mean to say. We can go through a list of pending changes and act as if those changes have already been applied. I don't think that's related to this situation here, though, but that's useful for things like recursive copies and anything involving trees of nodes, because then we can create parent directories, and before those are committed to the database, we can add things under those parent directories. So hence the abstraction. So we have database fs entry delete. Whoops, I clicked something. Which has get statement, which gives us the statement and apply. So this class isn't very important. So we'll go back here. So we enqueue the operation. We await enqueuing the operation. And then we don't do the operation. So when I said caching wasn't a problem, I was completely wrong. And I'm actually not even sure if that recent change I mentioned caused this problem. It may very well have been there before then. The issue here is we're enqueuing a delete operation, and we're assuming everything that's going to check whether this thing is deleted is going to check it through database fs entry service, and everything in database fs entry service for that is going to respect this cache situation, which fast get descendants and fast get direct descendants does not do. Furthermore, I don't want it to do that, right? We know we deleted the child nodes. This is going to introduce some extra, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to introduce more complexity, but also we need to iterate over the list of pending operations for no reason, just to check something we already know. So in that case, rmdir is simply going to get another parameter, and that parameter is we're going to call it ignore not empty. So sure enough, that issue should be gone now. Or I say sure enough, I haven't tried it yet. I'm doing that right now. Alright, so I have my directory with a file in it. Make sure that directory actually does exist for real. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm still seeing that error. I think I just missed something in my solution. I said ignore not empty true. For rmdir. This is ll rmdir. I did that in an and. Oh, this is target.provider.rmdir. So pewterfs provider is involved here. Context node. I don't know if I really want this in the file system provider interface, but it doesn't really seem like I have a better option. Okay, I suppose I'll do that for now. I'm missing something right now. I don't know what it is. Uh, I want ignore not empty to go to llrmdir. This isn't calling llrmdir. This is where the not empty error is actually being thrown. But it's doing the same check. Okay, so just by chance, I was able to find the right error, but I was looking in the wrong place. That means there's some redundancy here that I'm going to need to look into. Okay, so I'll just do this. And I don't think there's anything else I need to change here. Okay, let's give that a whirl. Oh, that worked because I forgot to add this file back. Or at least I think so. Okay, so now it shouldn't work, but actually it should work because I think I fixed it. No, we get a 500 internal server error. That's because I forgot to initialize. Well, there's two reasons actually. One is I forgot to initialize this options parameter. I think it'll let me do that. Yeah, it looks like it'll let me do that in a destructuring syntax here. The other is I don't think I put this in an object when I called rmdir. Where does that happen? That happens here. This needs to be in an object called options. Oh, oops, I didn't mean to open that file. All right, let's give it a try. Cool, it deleted it. That is exactly what we want. Just as kind of a file system sanity check. I'm going to create the same situation again and rmdir without recursive true, and it shouldn't let me delete that. So that should fail. And it does, with the correct error directory is not empty this time. So all right, I think that case is closed. Okay, so the bug is fixed and it's working now, but I'm not done yet. There are still a few things to do. One is removing all these console logs that I've littered everywhere. I don't always remember to do that, but I try to. So get rid of those, and we can see our changes are pretty minimal here. So just going over them again, I added an ignore not empty option that I'm using here. This is redundant because I also had to implement it in Computer FS Provider, which is what's actually handling this case. So we have that there. Yeah, I'm just setting that to true, and then we're uh, assuming that the child nodes don't exist because they're being deleted. So past me didn't record a really good closing to this video. The next thing I try to do here is a git bisect to find the issue, but it doesn't work very well because I run into issues running old versions of Pewter. So these last two clips, this one and this one, we're just going to skip those. That's just 10 minutes of me trying to do a git bisect. That'll never work. So that's it for this video. If you watched through it, you might as well check out the video where I fix the bug where Dev Center is making a directory named undefined in its app data directory. That one's much shorter than this one. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you found it interesting or helpful.